The history of the X-302 hyperspace fighter. The X-302 hyperspace fighter was Earth's second attempt at constructing a combat-capable spacecraft. It was developed using recovered alien technology at Area 51. Unlike its predecessor, the X-301 Interceptor, the craft was built entirely using technology developed on Earth or reverse engineering from goa'uld equipment. While its overall shape still resembled the goa'uld Death Glider that had been modified into the X-301, the X-302 was powered by a pair of jet engines with modified aerospikes for use in high altitude, plus a rocket booster for use in outer space. Unlike other Earth jet fighters, the X-302 incorporated internal dampeners that allowed the pilot to accelerate and maneuver much more sharply, without fear of blacking out. Also, the craft incorporated a Naquadah-based hyperspace window generator intended to make it Earth's first interstellar vehicle. Apparently, the X-302 had weapons as well. Whether or not these corresponded to the armaments of the production model F-302 fighter is unclear. The X-302 was a few weeks away from a practical hyperspace test when the goa'uld system lord Anubis launched an attack on Earth using a Stargate destroyer. Unable to dial out due to the fact that the SGC Stargate had an active wormhole, Colonel Jack O'Neill and Major Samantha Carter took the X-302 out on its maiden flight, intending to use its hyperdrive to reach Abydos, from which they could use the Stargate and ultimately contact the Asgard for assistance. Unfortunately, the flight, designated Abydos 1, had been aborted when the hyperspace window generated by the X-302 proved to be unstable. Subsequent research confirmed that due to the inherent instability of the Naquadah, using the hyperdrive to reach a specific destination was impossible. Nevertheless, after efforts to shut down the Stargate prior to its detonation failed, it was decided to use the X-302 to remove it from the Earth, but as the X-302 was not designed to carry a 64,000-pound payload, it had to be quickly stripped of all of its unnecessary weight, its weapons, some life support equipment, radar, and some of its crash safety mechanisms. The landing gear had to be removed as well, so it could incorporate the mounts for the Stargate. As a result, this mission, designated Starflight, was always intended to be the X-302's last. The X-302, with Jack at the helm and also by himself, was carried by a Boeing 747 to an altitude of 10 kilometers, then released to climb the rest of the way up on its own. Unfortunately, the weight of the Stargate proved to be too great, and the plane ran out of fuel before it could reach escape velocity. While falling back to Earth, O'Neill suggested using the hyperdrive, which would at least get the soon-to-explode Stargate well away from the planet. After a suggestion by Jonas Quinn, the drive was modified for an extremely short trip, thus minimizing the instability of the Naquadah. O'Neill ejected immediately before the hyperspace window, which successfully carried the X-302 more than 3 million miles away from Earth. The Stargate then exploded, destroying the craft, while ultimately saving Earth from destruction. Despite the loss of the first prototype, the X-302 performed well enough for the craft to quickly enter production as the F-302 Fighter Interceptor. Even the hyperdrive, modified for short bursts rather than interstellar travel, was included in the production model vehicles. Thank you for watching the history of the X-302. The history of the X-303. The X-303 was an interstellar spaceship built secretly on Earth using technology procured by Stargate Command. Manufacturer, the Tauri, class X-303. Length 195 meters, width 80 meters, height 65 meters, maximum speed 110 miles per second. Engine units, sublight engines, maneuvering thrusters, buffered Naquadria reactor core, fuel Naquadria, hyperdrive system interstellar, power plant Naquadria generator, shielding Asgard shields, hull Naquadria trillium alloy, armament 12 missile batteries, 16 railguns, complement 8 F-302 fighter interceptors, crew 115 plus. Minimum crew, 20. Other systems, transportation rings, Like its predecessor, the X-302 hyperspace fighter, the X-303 is exclusively Tory construction. Like the 302, it has inertial dampers, artificial gravity, and an anti-gravity system that allows the vessel to hover in midair. Its sublight engines are capable of boosting it from the surface into orbit in less than 30 seconds, and it also possesses a quadria-based hyperdrive. Unlike the 302, which is designed as a fighter interceptor, the X-303 developed as a response to the goa'uld attack. It is the United States Air Force first capital ship. Its span consists of 17 plus decks and is capable of carrying more than 100 personnel, as well as 8 302s within its hangar bay. The X-302 was built using both Earth-based and alien technology. Its design is based on that of an Earth naval aircraft carrier, having a long nose with a visible bridge area near the rear of the vessel. The X-303 was capable of both sublight and hyperspace travel. It could reach up to half the speed of light at sublight speeds. Its hyperdrive, however, was unstable and thus unreliable, being based on quadria. The first test ended with the vessel stranded in an unknown area of space, and the second attempt, it overloaded and had to be ejected to save the ship. For armaments, the X-303 had an array of railguns around the hull, and missile launchers loaded with quadria enhanced nuclear warheads. The X-303 was constructed in an underground hangar facility, designated Area 37-92NV, under the project name Prometheus. Its development was so large an undertaking that maintaining its security proved impossible, with information leaking to reporter Julia Donovan with Inside Access news program. In an attempt to minimize the potential damage of the project's disclosure, the President of the United States agreed to give Donovan, her producer, and a camera crew a tour of the X-303, claiming that the alien technology it incorporated was in fact salvaged from a UFO that crashed near Fairbanks, Alaska in 1978. Ultimately, the X-303 entered active service, taking the designation BC-303 and the name Prometheus. In this capacity, it served as the flagship of the Tory fleet under the auspice of the Office of Homeworld Security and received additional upgrades from the Asgard. After nearly being in service for 4 years, the Prometheus was eventually destroyed in the Battle of Telgus, which occurred February 2006. Although plans were made later to construct an entire fleet of BC-303s, the introduction of the Daedalus-class battlecruisers rendered the craft obsolete, leaving the Prometheus as the sole vessel in its class. The design plans for the X-303 without the Asgard upgrades were provided to the Russian Federation in 2002, along with those of the X-302 hyperspace fighter. However, the Russians have apparently not constructed any such vessels. Thank you for watching the X-303. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye-bye.